Hi witches, welcome back to my channel. It's me, your local chaotic witch aunt. And today I am reacting to your Witchy Backfires. I saw a few of them. I tried my best to kind of just grab a screenshot of them without like forming too many opinions, just because I kind of wanted it to be a surprise. So we're gonna start with the ones that were submitted on Instagram, and then I'm gonna move to the ones that people emailed me. We're just gonna start off and we're just gonna go through. I'm not saying names, these are completely anonymous. I'm not gonna tell your username to the internet. My friend was having some issues with a coworker at their job. This coworker was an ass in general, but was very focused on being a dick to my friend. The coworker would harass my friend and cause a lot of tension and stress during work hours. Any complaints my friend made didn't go anywhere. So as the witchy friend, I suggested we hex the coworker. This ended up not turning out the way we expected. Oh no. It was a relatively simple jar hex. After it was made, we went to a nature trail area in the woods and buried the jar. Not long after, my friend was fired from their job, and any attempt to get a new one were turning out fruitless, so we went to go get the jar and deconstruct it. When we went to go dig it up, it was gone. I suspect someone messed with it. So we could really mess with the physical spell and had to do some separate reversal stuff. A month later, my friend was able to get a job. I don't mean to laugh. I'm sorry, that's really unfortunate. I'm just thinking, like, how did that happen? Oh, everyone's here. Benji. I'm like, how did this happen? I always think whenever like something like that goes missing, I'm like, who like dug it up? Was it not buried all the way? Was it an animal? Sometimes animals dig them up. There's always like a question in my head of like, how the fuck did that happen? Because that's kind of, I don't know any of the ingredients, but that's similar to what I would do. I would bury it somewhere, but I found that like animals like to dig them up. So maybe an animal just was like, what's this? A snack. I don't know what's in it either, so it depends. That's really unfortunate. I'm so sorry. This one is, I did a money spell for my ex-girlfriend and she got in 4 car accidents and lost 3 jobs in 6 months, but got money. Oh my god. I always say money magic is the most difficult to work with because you have to be so incredibly specific with it that if you're not, it's like money will come in, but you have no idea how it's coming in. And that seems like what happened. And there are a few of these in here, the like money spells that I'm like, wow, okay. And we're like, it worked, the person got money, but it was like not in the way they expected. This one is very practical. I got a bottle of rubbing alcohol too close to my cauldron and it exploded. Fire safety is so important. That's really, once again, unfortunate. I'm so sorry that happened to you, but also make sure there's no rubbing alcohol near any open flame ever. That's the quickest way that like to make for something to explode. And then when it explodes, it goes everywhere and there's fire everywhere. Not good. More explosions. I went to go hex someone and it exploded all over me. Vinegar and spices straight onto bare skin. Oh, I know you say explosion, but I always wonder, I'm like, how? Like literally like, or just like a splish, you know? I don't know if that makes sense, but that also is really unfortunate. Okay, here's another one that's like a money type situation. I did an abundance spell specifically for money. Now my husband is working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. I can't. I feel so bad laughing because like I wouldn't laugh, but like I genuinely feel like if anyone's watching this and you're considering a money or abundance spell, you have to be so specific. I've gotten the weirdest like income ever. Like I did my spell and then you work overtime for 3 weeks. So you need to specify exactly where you want the money to come from when you do it, because otherwise you're kind of just like, now I'm getting a lot of money, but not in the way I want. Magic takes the path of least resistance. Did a spell to bring hidden truth to the light and found out my partner was cheating. it worked, but Jesus. Is that a backfire? Is that a backfire? I guess it is. But also, now you don't have to worry about that. I did a simple candle spell to help my brother find a job. He was asked to star in his ex's OnlyFans. It worked. That's not a backfire. That shit worked. It's just not the way you wanted. I think that the best part about this is some of these I'm like, I mean, it's not it worked. It just didn't work the way you wanted it to. And I love that because I feel like it's such a good learning experience for witchcraft. Everyone wants things to work exactly the way they want, but sometimes magic just doesn't work that way, or sometimes you just have to be more specific. This one is also this works, okay? It's not good, but it works. Tried to return to sender shit, and she fell down the stairs and sprained her ankle. That is indeed that is a spell working. It just worked in a way you didn't want. Oh my god. Can you imagine? Like, if someone sends you an email and you return it back and they break their leg and you're like... Because whenever I do a return to sender, I'm not returning it like much more potent than they sent it to me. So if I'm dealing with a lot of bullshit, I'm just gonna send that bullshit right back. And if they got it, and then they gotta deal with their bullshit. So it was June, July 2020, and I was a beginner witch at the time, only 8 months into studying. My friend was calling out a racist guy at his university. The racist guy doxed my friend. Out of anger, my 18-year-old unmedicated bipolar ass decided to try to hex the guy. Mind you, this would be the first spell I tried to do. Okay. So I got a jar, printed out the guy's profile pic, printed out pictures of Baphomet and Hecate, grabbed a purple Yankee candle, a lime, salt, and Cholula hot sauce. Okay, that's pretty good. If you were just working based off of like what you have, it's pretty good. Put all that shit in a jar, yelled "fuck you" into the jar, shook it, sealed it with the candle, took a picture of it, and tweeted the pic, adding the guy who I hexed. That is your only mistake in this entire process. Never, never show people who you're hexing that you're hexing them. Because then the next part, that is why. The pic went semi-viral in my town. The guy was Muslim. He DM'd me saying he has reversal prayers for that. Yeah, I didn't take it seriously. He managed to print a pic of my mom and niece, printed it and sent me a video of a prayer written in his native language, folded inside a glass with a pic of my niece and mom. Exactly a month later, my mom and niece got run over by a car. Oh my god. I wish I could tell you this was made up. When I tell you I've grown from this, I took a step back and undid the spell, made myself be more grounded and less petty, and also made myself understand even the people that are witchy, that have heavy connection to their gods and gods that will protect them versus me doing a petty spell. I promise you I've grown from this experience. I mean, honestly, for the first time, firstly, you doing a hex for your first spell terrifies me. I was very early on in mine too, and mine too backfired. Whenever you hex someone, never, ever let them know what you're doing. Because this is like you did your first spell and then had spiritual warfare. That's what that was. You engaged in spiritual warfare on your first try. And that's insane. That's nutty. Yeah, even you don't have to be witchy to have someone f you up with just a reversal, with like a protection prayer. Some of the Christian protection prayers, them insane. And I always say this, you never know what kind of spiritual team someone has on their side. And a lot of times you're working through that as you do baneful magic, but at the same time, if they suddenly become aware that you're doing it, yeah, it becomes a lot harder. It gets a lot harder. Especially since this was your first time, I'm expecting that you may not have had a huge amount of protection set up just in case of a backfire, so it hit you hard. It did hit you hard. I'm really glad that this was an experience that you were like, you grew from, because that is insane. And I'm so sorry you experienced that. Like, that is wild. You're like, I wish I could tell you this was made up. I know. I mean, I've heard, it's not the worst I've heard, but on the kind of scale between best and worst, it's teetering semi-close to worst. Because, oh my god. In terms of the candle and like the spell you did, nice. I mean, like, you don't need fancy materials to do a spell, and you fucking, I'm guessing that it would have nailed him. Like, it clearly had some fucking power behind it, because then when it reversed, there was a bunch of once again, I'm so sorry that happened. I'm glad that this was something that you learned from. This is like, but also like, holy fucking shit, that is insane. I cannot imagine having that be your first experience with spells. Did a reconciliation spell, reconciliation, sorry, spell for an ex, and a different ex with the same first name came back. Fuck, man. That's why we use first and last names. I bet you did too. I bet you probably did. Like, there's no way, I mean, even if you didn't, but that's so, that's fucking funny. I cannot imagine being like, well, shit. It's one of them, but not the right one. Wait, hold on. How many exes do you have with the same name? I don't have any exes. I don't have any exes with the same name. Some of my exes and like my friends' exes have the same name, but none of my exes have the same name. I'm curious now. Drying and storing herbs. I had pine needles going moldy because I didn't dry them properly. That's practical. Yes, always dry your herbs. Yeah, I've had many things go moldy in my day. I did a spell to bless a close friend, and we ended up being partners. A good backfire? Bitch, that wasn't a backfire. You're the blessing. That's once again, I think a lot of these are genuinely, some of them are legit backfires, but some of them I'm like, that's just the spell working in a way you didn't expect. You're the blessing, bitch. Bless them. Okay, my moon water was in a sealed bottle. It started getting moss, and the glass cracked. I learned this really early on in my witchy TikTok journey, and by witchy TikTok journey I mean like on the internet. I tried to make moon water, and I stored it wrong, and it molded, and I was like, I don't make moon water because it molds. And someone made a video being like, did you put it in crystal? And I'm like, what? They're like, you have to put it in crystal and sanitize it, which that's apparently what you have to do when you're collecting moon water. Waters are by far the hardest thing that I believe to store, unless there's like a certain percentage of alcohol, like grain alcohol in it to keep it from going moldy. Pain in my ass. Okay, it's so annoying. Now we're moving into some emails. We're starting off with Eli. Thank you, Eli. I'm gonna use just your first name. Back in June, I performed my first ever spell ritual. I'd done very small prayers and petitions before then, but nothing quite so elaborate. I had been going through a rough time, so it was meant to be a protection ritual that included a petition to my guides. Fast forward a week or two, and I got hit hard with some heavy trauma stuff. This went on for about a month, during which time I basically went through 6 months worth of trauma processing in the space of 4 weeks. Holy shit. Until I went back and looked at my notes and realized one tiny detail. I'd asked my guides to protect me not only from negative energy, but stagnant energy too. Yeah. I'd asked, so the spell worked. I just didn't realize what I was asking for, and since learned a golden rule for my practice: specificity. Yeah. I would say that the most important part that I learned is specificity and just being so careful with location. Like, I did a hex in my house, the infamous lemon hex incident of 2020. Actually, it was 2016. 2016 or 2017 is when I did that hex. If anyone is interested in hearing me talk more about that, I will on YouTube because I've talked about it a lot on smaller platforms, but I've never talked about it on YouTube. I'll make a video and I'll post it. But because that's my biggest witchy backfire. Thank you to Raven for sending this one. It was the last full moon. I was doing a releasing ritual sort of thing that involved me burning a piece of paper with all that I wanted to let go of on it. Long story short, at the end of it, I went to blow out the candles and accidentally blew into the jar that held the paper's ashes. The ashes went all over the place. Ashes on my altar? Oh yes. Ashes on my candles? Yep. Ashes in my mouth? Yes. It sucked. So either this was just an honest and hilarious mistake, or my bad habits are going to be harder to get rid of than I thought. Hope you had a laugh reading this. I definitely did, because I was reading that and I'm like, that's so either like mundane mess up, or it could just be your bad habits being like, you thought, bitch. You can't get rid of me. And I think that's so funny. I love a lot of the times in witchcraft stuff, sometimes I'm not sure whether it's like a practical mess up or a lesson for me. And I love that about witchcraft. It's one of my favorite parts. I started doing tarot too early and eventually the deck gave me the same cards saying to stop. I'm curious about this one and I have questions because I want to know more. What do you mean by too early? I want to ask that, because is it like before you felt ready to do tarot, or was it one of those things where like the cards, they were giving you the same cards because you were like asking the same question over and over? Because that's what I do sometimes. I'm like, I don't like that, give it back, let me try again. Which I know some of you people do that as well. So I'm really interested and I would love to hear more if you're interested in like elaborating in the comment section. Oh God. My first time burning a candle with herbs for protection. For a protection spell, it burned a circle into the table. Your table do be protected though. That table is protected as shit. That reminds me a lot of one of my more recent backfires when I overdressed a big white like pillar candle with too much oil, like way too much oil. And I think oil was the main thing because there definitely were herbs on it, but not as much. There was a little bit of wasp nest. Wasp nest, very flammable, please be careful. And I put it in my kitchen. I burned it. This is a like pillar candle, like it's huge. It's supposed to last like multiple weeks. I burned down in less than an hour. And when I went in, it had completely gone over the candle holder, all across the stovetop, down the oven, and I was like, ah, what the fuck? So I always think of this as like when it burns something like that, if it's easy to fix, is it just the protection candle going ham? Is it me overdressing it? Is it a mix of both? Because I just know that this house has been super fucking protected ever since I did that. That's all I'm gonna say. Oh, more practical. I love these. I tried to burn a spell using an aluminum tray on a plastic table. I love you guys so much. I do think we all need to communally take a fire safety course, because there's no way all of us have had this many issues with fire. Like, I've set myself on fire once. I've burned a candle too much. I've set off the fire alarm in my house. I started a fire in my shower once. It was a contained fire, but like it was in a metal tray and the metal tray got really hot. It was like scorched after. The table was melted. Oh my God. I honestly think sometimes we're so focused on the intricacies of the spell we're doing, right? We're sitting there like, we need to get this right. I want to make sure it's good. Yeah, that I honestly think, because I've done the exact same thing where I just neglect basic fire safety procedures sometimes. I once burned a fucking chime candle on top of a plastic lid, and the plastic lid fucking melted into my witch bottle. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Dumbassery, okay? It's dumbassery. It's forgetting fire safety sometimes, because sometimes we don't have access to like really good stuff that's gonna make sure everything's safe. But I really, this is what I recommend for like this. I really recommend investing in like really good metal plates, like the ones that if you have a chime candle on there and it starts flowing, it's not gonna go over the sides. That also works with an aluminum tray. Also, I always recommend aluminum trays like in a bathtub on a stove top, because aluminum trays are wild because they don't just absorb the heat, they spread it. They get hot. So put it on top of something that's not gonna be affected by the hot. So no wood, no plastic, stovetop only. Holy shit. You guys are so fun. Money spell, wanted a raise at work but didn't specify, got asked for a commission instead. Money spells are so hard to do, and I honestly think it's because when you are not, it's literally, you just forget to be specific, and then suddenly you're like, what is going on? Where did I get this from? This is really bad. I'm sorry for laughing. Money spell to save up for a computer, and a week later my uncle died, and I ended up getting his computer. I'm gonna say, I doubt you killed your uncle. However, that is so, timing wise, that's terrible. I'm so sorry that happened, but like, I am glad you, Jesus. You got a computer though, the spell worked. Just not in the way you expected. This is from my friend Haley. Haley runs the Armenian Folk Magic account on Instagram. You should definitely follow her. She does amazing work, amazing research. Not fully a spell backfire, but did a protection spell for people who gave me the evil eye to not talk about me. And the girl I suspected of giving me the evil eye left the country permanently that night. I think you told me this, but I'm so glad I get to share it with everyone else. She defended colonialism and threatened to beat up a 17-year-old for asking her a question, was a Karen to the school staff, so I don't care. You shouldn't care. Bye. 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 I'm okay with that person permanently leaving the country, okay? That's all I'm going to say. All right, this is from The Grass is Greener. Thank you. One of my first spells was a love attraction jar. Love attraction jars, there's so many traditions that do it very well and have specific ways of doing it. And I just feel like they have to be done a certain way in order to be really good. Like, I've had a love spell backfire, my fucking cousin, some like thrice removed, has had a love spell backfire, and then I see the best practitioners just done. Like, nothing bad happened. Like, it just works. And I'm like, damn, I love that for all. If someone asks me for a love spell, I outsource. I'm like, go to this person. I can't do that for you. I was trying to attract someone that was basically like this fictional character I loved. I was cringe and still am. No, I don't think you are. Don't worry. I put moon water in it and I think it molded. Oh yeah, that'll do it. I kept it on my altar for a year. Oh no. Not the moldy spell. At the time I knew I should disassemble it because it went bad, but I just never did it for some reason. I still to this day don't know. Sometimes you just don't do something and it's okay. I get that. Eventually I disassembled it in my window well and buried the bottle there for a bit. Okay. Anyway, I am pretty sure it's backfired because I've only been anywhere near a relationship one time in the last 5 years. And only had one date either. It's not from lack of trying. Still don't know how to undo it, so I'm going to have to ask someone in my community. Love your work and the community you built. Thank you. That, once again, love spells are definitely not my specialty. I'm sorry, by the way, that the love spell backfired. That sucks. It sucks. Here, this is another hex one. I was around 2014. This is from Hannah. I was a teenager and hadn't been practicing very long. Somebody in my life had really pissed me off, super petty, stupid teenager things, but my little self decided to hex them. Not only did I do a sour jar, which I had no business doing, and not only did I do it in my house, I didn't finish it. I stopped midway through. Gets worse. I opened it up and dumped it out on my property. Oh my god. They're saying they had a horrendous 2-year stretch. Oh, sweet Jesus. I'm glad that this is like something that, like, I feel like mistakes are the best way we learn. And this is one of them. 1, don't hex in the house. Never hex in the house. 2, don't put from a hex on your property. 3, when you're doing hexes, I always say you use the materials that are gonna wanna work with you. I'm not familiar with sour jars at all, but I think sour jars are like a very specific type of hex that is specific to, I think it's specific to hoodoo, but I'm not 100% sure, and I am not a hoodoo, so I'm not the best person to ask. But however, you also said I had no business doing. Fully, like, I understand. I think that a lot of people, when we were growing up in 2014 and 2015, because that's around the similar time when I was doing a lot of my first spells, there was a lot of information on Tumblr and Pinterest that was available to the public that shouldn't have been available to the public and shouldn't have been recommended for a bunch of people not doing, like, who have no idea what they're doing. And I'm pretty sure sour jar was one of them. Like, there are definitely some things on there that I'm like, I don't think this is how this is used. But I don't know. I think that's about it. That's about all the time we have today. These are the wildest backfires that I have ever heard. I love you all. I'm so glad that we've all communally made mistakes and learned from them for the most part. I think it's only fair that because you guys shared your backfires with me, I shared one with you, which was the candle on my stove. I didn't tell anyone about that because I was just like so embarrassed, and also I was really fucking scared, and also it was such a bitch to clean up. When I say there was wax like all over my oven, I bet I have a picture. Hold on. That's one spell I did that looked really good. And it's been like so much later that I'm not super concerned about like showing this. I know I took a picture of it because it was the most ridiculous thing I had ever done. I must, I'm gonna, you know what, I'm gonna send it to Voga. I can't believe I found it. That's all for today. That's my witchy backfire. I'm glad to be able to show it to you guys. I have to let the dog out. Thank you so much for watching. If you want, remember to, if you want, you can like, subscribe, leave a comment, or turn the bell on, but absolutely no pressure. Remember to drink water and have an amazing rest of your day. Siate Benedetti.